We've been saying it for 3 years. But it does look like we're finally going to get an announcement of Stargate. And it might be just the announcement that we actually want.
Indeed.
Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. So yeah, this has been a long saga, and yes, we've been talking about this for 3 years, but we've not only been telling you when we've got close on this channel and dropping the exclusive news to Stargate fans first, but we've also been telling you what's been delaying the Stargate announcement. Now, unlike other sources that like to talk about the world of Stargate, we actually have got reasonably good sources, and we have been finding out what's going on over at MGM. MGM Plus has been desperately fighting to get a Stargate series for a very long time now. They've been saying, look, if we want to take MGM Plus to the next level, give us Stargate. Because after Bond, traditionally, Stargate is the most valuable thing MGM owns. Now, there has been lots of disagreements over Amazon about how to move forwards with a Stargate franchise, which is basically what they want. They don't want a movie, they don't want a series, they want franchise. Everything has to be a franchise. And there has been problems. For one, Amazon was not happy when they went into MGM, and they had to basically restructure and absorb MGM as an entirety. Now, MGM actually as a studio really only exists in name. As a building, etc., it's really all been absorbed into Amazon. Every aspect of MGM's production facilities, every aspect of their production teams, etc., the people, have all been absorbed into Amazon. That took a bit longer than expected. There was then an issue that Amazon desperately wanted its own studio space but didn't have any. And obviously building studios takes time. They didn't want to do a big project like Stargate or a RoboCop series or anything else without their own studio space. They didn't want to keep having to rent it. It's expensive. And if you've been following anything around Hollywood over the last 12 months, you'd know that cutting costs is now quite an important thing for all of the studios, including Amazon. So a lot of that studio space is now coming online. We've been telling you for well over a year now that this summer was going to be when a lot of that studio space built by the Hackman Group was going to start becoming available to Amazon. And it has, even though it has been delayed slightly. It's took about a month or 6 weeks longer for actually the first couple of studio spaces that are in Vancouver to come online. They're not for Stargate, they're for other projects that Amazon have, but increasing the studio capacity that Amazon wants. Now, there is also the problem, before I tell you about what's actually going on with Stargate, that there is a sort of condensation of a lot of the calendar that Amazon had. They had a lot of projects, and because of the 12-month strike, a lot of those projects that they were supposed to get done last year are only just getting started now. So obviously they've had to pick and choose what to run with. They've decided to go with stuff that was already sort of in pre-production and get that done rather than starting anything major new. But that, if you've been following the news, has changed in the last couple of months. First of all, we had Spaceballs 2 announced. This is a project that I was told was very high up on the agenda when Amazon bought MGM. I told you that there were 5 big projects that Amazon were desperate to do. Bond obviously was the primary. Stargate was very high up. A Spaceballs project was very high up. A Space 2001, a Space Odyssey project remake was on the cards as well, even though we've had nothing about that yet. And obviously things like Legally Blonde and stuff like that as well. Now we've had an announcement that actually the RoboCop TV series, that again was actually initially announced over 3 years ago, has actually got a showrunner and is going into production. We've actually now had news that, yes, the Legally Blonde, that's the main thing we're excited about, right? Legally Blonde is actually now finally moving forwards in a TV series. Again, this was something that was announced before Amazon actually bought MGM over 3 years ago. So that's moving forwards as well. Why is this being announced now? Why is this happening now? Very simply because, as we've been telling you, Amazon have finally got the studio space, or at least it's starting to come online, that they wanted. They've cleared a lot of the calendar that they had a problem with thanks to the strikes. And to be honest, they've just got to a point where MGM is sorted, they're sorted, a lot of the restructuring was sorted. They had to hire a load more people that they did the start of last year and into this year. They've had a load of redundancies to sort out and things like that, and then the restructuring that goes along with that. And all of that work is kind of done. So what does that mean for Stargate? Sources have been telling me that there have been movement. Right, so I talked to actually somebody from MGM, and they told me about 6 months ago or so that, look, they're definitely desperate over at MGM Plus to do a Stargate series. They have a plan for a series. It's with a third partner. It was actually with Skydance for a little while. It was with another production partner for a little while. None of them have quite figured out how to do this, how to start a new series, but they were still working on it. But they were delayed because Amazon wouldn't let them move forwards. We know that before the strikes, a movie was actually in sort of like very early stages of pre-production. They were actually starting to build a few like early mock-ups for sets and things. We're pretty sure script that had been floating around for about a year. And before the strikes, they were genuinely seriously going forwards with a movie plan. We know there's been a lot of flip-flopping over at Amazon about whether to do a movie or a series. And that's one of the reasons why Hawk Osterby and Mark Fergus decided to step away from the project 2 years ago. Again, we told you here first. But I'm being told that Mike Hopkins, the boss, Jennifer Salke's boss, Jennifer Salke is the head of the studio, Mike Hopkins is her boss over at Amazon, has basically told them, and we heard this around Christmas just gone, actually, that they were not happy about how badly MGM had been used. They bought this massive property, 8.5 billion quid, and they bought it for the IP. They didn't buy it for studio space, etc. This is not like buying Paramount where you're buying a massive studio lot. MGM doesn't have one. This is just their IP, 8.5 billion. And nothing had been produced. Nothing had happened. Jennifer Salke did at time make the point that yes, but because of the strike, because we're waiting for studio space, it'll be this summer that we start announcing things. Mike Hopkins has, apparently according to sources that get to speak to us over here at Sidetrack, told them again, okay, now you've got no excuses. What is going on with things like Stargate? Now, why is Mike Hopkins moaning in particular about Stargate? One, because nothing's been done with it. Two, there is still significant interest, but even though that interest is starting to wane because we keep getting so many false starts. But third, Stargate actually still makes money for Amazon. RoboCop does to a degree, but not as much as Stargate. If you think about merchandise, the Lego sets that you can buy, the actual repeats on things like Sky here in the UK and everywhere around the world of the original 3 series, all of these things still generate an income for Amazon. RoboCop gets the repeats of the movies, etc., and he gets some merch. I'm actually being told that still today, Stargate is still the second highest earner from just a purely franchise money-making point of view, only behind James Bond. There is nothing else that MGM own that generates as much money. But also, and more importantly in some ways, the money that Stargate makes is stayed pretty steady. So the bosses like Mike Hopkins over at Amazon go, this is a TV show that has consistently made us money pretty much from when we cancelled it. We need to take advantage of that. Get on with it. Do something. Now, what is completely up to Jennifer Salke? Mike Hopkins said, look, we want something that's franchisable, but we want something now. And I'm being told by 3 or 4 different sources now, actually, that yes, there will be a decision, and we will know what that decision is by around Christmas. Now, whether that'll be just before Christmas or just after Christmas, we don't know exactly, but around Christmas. Remembering that the MGM Plus slate is announced just after Christmas in the early new year, sort of February, March time. So it could even be pushed back to that if they decide to just go TV series MGM Plus, which is obviously a possibility. Will they still go movie? I straight up can't tell you at the moment because I don't think Amazon quite know. I think they have an option for a movie and they have a plan to get there. They even have a script. They have a plan for how to make that into a franchisable project. But they will need to look at the numbers and probably decide whether that is financially viable or whether just a TV series is a more sensible option. I think as fans, and we've been saying this for, again, 3 years nearly, We would just prefer a series. It's lower risk and it's actually what we want. So do that, would make sense for us. Or do a movie that then is like basically a double episode that just goes on Prime, that advertises the series, put the series on MGM Plus, then put it on Prime 6 months after that. That pretty much makes everybody happy. Just do it already. So yeah, we've had delays. Yeah, we've been telling you on this channel exactly why. But now we can actually tell you that Mike Hopkins, the boss at Amazon, has told Jennifer Salke, make a bloody decision and let everybody know around Christmas. So we are really sticking our neck out on this channel. I think if we don't know anything by March 1st, then I would suggest that it's probably not going to happen. Because Amazon do now have the capacity, or at very least in the next 3 or 4 months, will have the capacity to do this project. They have cleared a lot of their calendar. They've cleared a lot of the slate. A lot of the stuff that was supposed to be done a year has now been done. They are starting to announce MGM projects. It's only Stargate we're waiting on. Now, why is it RoboCop first and Stargate later? Because Stargate will be significantly more expensive than even a RoboCop project. It will be a high-end sci-fi show that instead of a budget of around $3 or $4 million an episode for RoboCop, it's going to be closer to the $7 or $8 million an episode for Stargate. Potentially anything up to twice as much. Amazon, I'm being told, are looking at options how to mitigate that cost. And how to do that is to go with a production partner. I'm being told there are conversations with Sony, who actually did produce 2 seasons of Stargate Atlantis, if you remember, who are very interested to do that and would actually film that at Culver City Studios, Sony Picture Studios, which is the old MGM Studios, and Sony would basically do a franchise deal for that. They would actually pay Amazon a fee and they would produce Stargate. I'm being told that's the only thing that's holding this up, is that Amazon are actually considering that option at the moment, but nothing is final. And if they don't go with Sony, they'll just do it themselves. But either way, the bosses are telling Jennifer Salke at MGM Pictures, crack on and get it done. But guys, get into the comments and tell me what you think. Is this something that we should be very excited about? Or do you think, actually, is this going to be one more false start and this is never going to happen? I actually think if you think that Stargate is never coming back, you're just wrong. Because Amazon like money, and Stargate is money. So, get into the comments and tell me what you think. As always, please stay safe. Don't forget to go and check out patreon.com/SciTrek, where most of our videos do go first. And I'll see you next time.